It's all right. We don't wanna like cut you off or anything like that. So welcome back to CIC, and it's great to hear that report from Larry, wasn't it? And just to learn that we can be a part of, I guess, the church is kind of a just bigger place than just where we gather, right? And I think as a church here at CIC too, it's important for us to remember that, I mean, it's good that we gather like this, right? On a weekly basis. But it's also important for us as a church to remember that to be a gathering church is one thing, but to be a sending church or a missional church is important. So it doesn't just mean going on foreign missions, but we can be a sending church right here, right? Because when we're done here, throughout the week, we're going to meet all different sorts of people and in your workplace and in your classrooms and so forth. So it's important for us, I think, to remember that. So appreciate that, Larry. Today, I think I mentioned that we're doing like a 3-part series, Learn, Love, and Lead. So last week we covered love, and I know that's a huge topic, and so is learn, and today lead as well. But we all, have heard that expression where we say, you lead by example, right? We've heard of that, and most of us have, right? And it's so important, whether it's in family or the marketplace, wherever it is, and I'm sure you've come across lots of different types of leaders yourself in your lifetime. I have too. And I think I mentioned this last week, but we can learn from great leadership, great leaders around us. But it's also true that we can learn from poor leadership or poor leaders. We can learn from their mistakes, like watching, where they've failed and so on and so forth. I want to tell you about a lady who, she used to be called Miss Lee. This lady works at Atlanta International Airport. If you travel through Atlanta, you may have even come across her because she's worked there for 30 plus years for Delta. And, well, she used to be known as Miss Lee in Delta. And she's just a very vibrant, high energy type person, right? You get the picture. And her mission, she told me, I've met her a couple times, and her mission, sort of when she wakes up each morning, her prayer is like, Lord, help me meet 10 people. Let me greet 10 people at Atlanta International Airport, just strangers, right? And that's all she does. I mean, I'm sure she has to do other work, being part of Delta staff, but she doesn't take the tram or anything like that on purpose. It's a huge airport, right? But so that she can walk and make more contacts with people. So this is all very intentional. So whenever she comes across the 10, maybe she doesn't quite reach 10 every day, but that's her goal. She just greets them and asks them a simple question: do you need anything? Is there anything I can do to help you? Because they're all traveling, they may need issues with translation or with luggage, lost items, and so on and so forth. But that's her mission. And so nowadays, she's been doing this for like 30 years. I think actually even the vice president, VP of Delta, asked her one day, is there anywhere else you'd like to work? Is there anywhere else you'd like to go? Because you're so faithful and you're so good at what you're doing, we can send you wherever you want to go, right? And she said, no, I just want to stay here. And in her gut feeling was, her intention was to stay there, like being a missionary. She says she's called. She feels like she's called to that airport where she can serve all sorts of people. And that's all she's been doing for 30 years. And so nowadays, she's not called Miss Lee anymore. Since those days, she's gotten married. And now she's called actually Delta Mom. Isn't that cool? Because she's like a mom at Atlanta International Airport, because she's looking out for everybody. She's asking people, and at least her goal is to meet 10 people every single day. So imagine that. As I was having this conversation with Delta Mom last fall, I think it was, I kind of paused and thought to myself, what would happen if like all of us would take the time to intentionally, meet 10 people a day, say hi to them, and ask them if they needed any help. Imagine what could happen, potentially, what could happen, right? If we could all be like, I know we can't all be like Delta moms and Delta dads and whatever, but it's a cool concept. Anyway, as I share on this topic of leading and leading by example, we all know that Jesus led by example, right? He taught from the scriptures, from the Old Testament, and so on and so forth, but most of all, he led by example. And we have records of that throughout the Bible, right? Now, I mentioned that you can also learn from poor leadership, right? I can't really talk about other people or other poor leaders. I can only talk about myself. So you don't want to follow my example, okay? But I just share one story because I think first week maybe I shared a story about my brother. There's one more story about me and my brother. I had this one time, his birthday was coming up. My brother's older. And I had this awesome gift idea. I thought I'd just gift him with a Rolex watch and just shock the pants out of him, just shock him. Now, I had no money. I'm a pastor, right? Can't afford no Rolex watch. Probably starts around 5K, I don't know, right? Goes up to like 10, 20, 30K with diamond studs and all that. Goes way up, right? That's my guess. I don't really know how much it costs. But somebody gave me this awesome info that actually I could buy the thing for 50,000 won. I said, no way. Rolex watch. And this dude exactly told me where to go, where to get it. And this is a few years back. Price may have gone up now. I don't know if you can find it anymore. But the place was in Daejeon. So I go there. I know some of you have been to Daejeon. So I buy this thing, Rolex watch. Some of you may be able to tell the difference. But if I looked at the real thing and the fake, I had no clue. So anyway, I got this thing, gift wrapped it in, and gave it to my brother. His jaw just dropped, and it just stayed in that position for like 30 minutes, right? It was a literally jaw-dropping moment for my brother. It was intense. I needed to get a picture of that moment, but I didn't, which I really regret. But he said, bro, you didn't have to do this. Man, are you serious? How? This went on and on, right? But the trouble came when at the time my brother was living in Chicago, so he takes this watch back to Chicago, right? I bought it in Korea. Never told him that it was a fake. And at the time, there may be more stores now, Rolex stores in Chicago, but at that time, downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue, there was only one Rolex store. This watch stopped one day. It's not supposed to stop, right? So he does some research in the Chicagoland area, and he finds one store on Michigan Avenue. He was living in an area called Deerfield, Illinois. It's about at least an hour drive to downtown Chicago from Deerfield. So he makes a trip all the way downtown and goes into the Rolex store. You know how they have these security guards, right? Nice dress suits and black suit and all this. And, can I help you, sir? My brother's name is Joe, or Joseph. He goes, yeah, my brother gifted me with this watch. It's only been 6 months and it died on me. He goes, can I look at it? He takes a look at it. He says, sir, where did you get this watch? This is not the real thing. Huh? He was in shock again. Right? Second time. Huh? He goes, sir, Rolex. And my brother said, I think the battery died on me. I said, sir, Rolex does not run on batteries. Just you keep it on your wrist and you shake your life and it just, it's like, it doesn't run on battery. So he came out and He doesn't talk to me ever since. Anyway, this is not the way you want to lead your life, okay? So that's an example of how not to lead. There's a site, online site called Quora. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, Quora. And if you go into this site, there's like all types of questions that people ask. And then different people provide answers. There's one question that I found, it was kind of cute, but it has to do with leadership to some extent. So I wanted to give this as an example as well before we read our passage. The question was this: what is the most inappropriate gift that someone innocently gave a teacher? Some of you are teachers in this room, I know. And so this lady by the name of Dale, a former teacher, shares her story this way. She goes, I taught 8-year-olds for a while. One morning, a very sweet, sensitive type little boy proudly presented me with a small gift box that he had obviously taken great care to wrap and decorate. He insisted that I open it right away. I was shocked to open the box and find a very large pair of diamond earrings that appeared to be set in platinum. Kind of sounds like my Rolex story, right? I'm an April birthday, and my birthstone is a diamond. I also have a very spoiling husband who has gifted me with lots of nice jewelry over the years. I could tell that these were definitely the real deal. I knew there was no way that he had purchased these for me with his allowance, yet he really wasn't the type of kid who would maliciously steal from his mother. I didn't want to embarrass the guy. I thanked him and placed them in my desk drawer that had a lock. On my lunch break, I called his mom and explained the situation. She was a realtor and worked near the school. She dropped by and confirmed that those were her diamond earrings, and I, of course, returned them to her. She told me she would handle it gently at home. The next day, the same little boy came in with another gift for me. He insisted that I open it right away. It was a little angel figurine from the dollar store. How many of you have been to a dollar store? Yeah, I have too. Fun stuff there, right? He told me that his mom let him know that I was married and couldn't accept jewelry from him, and that he shouldn't have taken his mom's jewelry. Great leadership moment, right? She took him, and then this is what she did. I think it's another great leadership moment for the 8-year-old son. She took him to the dollar store and let him pick out one item that he thought I'd like. He picked the angel to protect me from the bad kids. And she goes, I had a few kids that year that really acted out in class. I kept that angel on my desk for the rest of my career. Isn't that a cool story? But it shows how this one teacher had an opportunity to influence one of her students, an 8-year-old, right? And the mom also showed very good leadership in that moment for her child. I think this is a classic example of leadership, and maybe you can say gentle persuasion, right? That was very age appropriate as well. In Luke 19, we find these words in this passage, verses 41 and 42. Speaking of Jesus, as he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it. Jesus, approaching Jerusalem, saw the city. And I think where it says he saw the city, it probably means he saw the people, right? Living in the city. Not so much about the buildings, or the significance maybe of the city even, but beyond that, he saw the people and the needs of people. Probably the spiritual needs of people. So when he saw the city, he wept over it and said, if you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace. But now it is hidden from your eyes. Because you see, Jesus Christ, he was the one that was bringing peace. He was the one, but people couldn't really see that. They were blinded. And I think for us today, it's not that different. It's not all that different. I mean, we may see Jesus as something else, but not someone who really we really desperately need in our lives to carry out the work and the task that we have to do, we may not see it that way. Some people may have just seen him as a good teacher, a prophet, but not necessarily as Son of God. It was actually a moment of celebration as Jesus was entering the city, right? But the passage says that he wept over the city. Why? I think we can come up with several different answers, but one, I think, is because of his unending desire for the peace of Jerusalem. The central idea in this lament, in this passage, is really about peace, isn't it? See, Jesus was expressing his sorrow for Jerusalem because it had rejected him and therefore missed its opportunity for peace. Another reason he wept was because of his unlimited knowledge of the punishment of Jerusalem. He saw the inevitable and imminent pain that people would eventually suffer, right? And finally, Jesus wept because of his unbounded love for the people of Jerusalem. So it's all about people. The reason he wept is he saw and entered the city, was he saw the ultimate need that people, every individual had, right? And just as much as he cared for Jerusalem, he cares for us today, doesn't he? He challenges leaders to be at their best because leaders are in a position of influence. It doesn't really matter how many people you are leading, because even if you are in a position of influencing one person, you are still leading. If you're a mom, you're a leader. If you're a dad, you're a leader. If you're a teacher, you're a leader. If you're a mentor to somebody or coach, you're a leader. Because that person you are leading now may become a future president. Who knows? That person you are leading now may become a future star athlete or an Olympian. Who knows? That person you are influencing and leading now may become one of the greatest influencers on YouTube. Nobody knows, right? We don't know that. That person you are leading may become the General Secretary of UN one day. That person you are leading and influencing today may become a Hollywood filmmaker. Who knows? A leader isn't necessarily someone that always has to be up front directing people, right? How to live their lives. Rather, a leader is someone who has a capacity to influence, even if that means one single person that you're influencing. It could be a group of people you lead, like a small group. In other words, you don't have to be a CEO of a big company to be called a leader. If you're a teacher, you influence a classroom full of students. If you're a mom or a dad, that makes you a leader as well. If you coach volleyball or soccer or drama or speech or anything else, you're a leader. Because again, you're in a position of influence, right? And needless to say, Jesus was a leader. What kind of a leader was he? And again, if we do some research, throughout the scriptures, we find various expressions of leadership, different lessons that we can pick up. But just a few that I'd like to mention in the time that remains. He's a type that invested in people, wasn't he? For sure. He invested in people. And that's how he led, by example. Because we are to invest in people. Because people matter to God. You matter to God. Every single person in this room matter to God. Right? We can all agree with that, I think. So he's the type that invested in people. He demonstrated incredible confidence in the potential of people. Most notably, we know that he invested in the 12, right? Who are known as his disciples. But we also know that he invested in others too. He went beyond. His scope of influence went way beyond just the 12. And we know that. He also grieved for communities. Kind of like that passage we just read. He wept when he saw the city of Jerusalem. You see, he wanted no one to be left out, but that they would belong in a healthy and vibrant spiritual community. That's why it says in Luke 19 that Jesus was heartbroken for those who didn't have a meaningful place to belong, because we have a need to know and to be known, a need to love and to be loved, a need to serve and to be served, a need to celebrate and to be celebrated. That's what community and family and church is all about, isn't it? I mean, that's why we gather. Because we have that need for community. It's a God-driven need and desire that every single humanoid has. Need to belong, right? Need to love and be loved, to serve and be served, to celebrate and be celebrated, to be accepted and to accept. So that's another example of how Jesus led. We also know that Jesus embraced different cultures, and this is important, isn't it? In today's, wherever you are leading, whoever you are leading, in today's world. He wasn't closed-minded. Instead, he embodied a cross-cultural gospel focus. That's why he'd send people on a mission. Just like Lhasa, those who went on this trip. Why do you do that? Why do you even care to go? Pay for airfare. Eat food that you're not used to eating. Meeting strangers. Right? You do this intentionally. This is what Jesus showed. It was a way of life for him. That's also how the Holy Spirit birthed the early church in a multicultural, multilingual environment, wasn't it? That's how the church was born. There's a couple more. Jesus led by giving up his will. Think about that one. Jesus led by giving up his will. That's a tough one, isn't it? Is it easy for us to give up our will? Nope, I don't think so. But the challenge, we're confronted with that challenge every single day, aren't we? We can't avoid this one. Because that's how a Christ-like leader leads, though. You don't just try to get your will in everything. You do, right? Even if you're a leader, we have Christ to follow. And he always sought to do the Father's will first, not his. Last but not least, Jesus surrounded himself with lost people, unchurched people, people who didn't have Christ. I mean, he always felt the needs of people in general, but he'd hang out with the lost intentionally. Some of you know, like Pastor Sonny, right? Who's back here in April, Larry? Is it you or is it Sonny? It's Sonny? Okay. So if you come back for the month of April, I think Sonny will be with us for a month, and I think maybe Pastor Larry will be here in May. We kind of rotate, if you're new to CIC, like on a monthly basis. That's how kind of it works here. But anyway, some of you know Sonny, Pastor Sonny, and he had a sabbatical one year, and the craziest thing is, guess what he did? He got a license for stand-up comedy. So he's actually a licensed stand-up comedian. And if you go on Facebook or somewhere, you can type in his name, and you can actually see some pretty crazy stuff. He's funny, though. He's just funny. So he has a gift of making people laugh. Actually, some people in our church, our other church, not CIC, left our church because they thought he was being too silly. I'm serious. I don't know if you can imagine that, but some people laughed because they didn't like his humor. But anyway, he's funny. I think he's great. But why does he do this? Why on earth does a pastor want to be a licensed stand-up comedian? Go figure, right? I think his heart's desire is to reach more people. It's to connect with other people who normally would not hang out like you would in church. People that would care less. But he would go, just make them laugh. Whether it's in a club environment, comedy club, or whether it's on a personal basis. Whether he's meeting somebody in a cafe. He loves this stuff. He goes to baseball, a couple of baseball games. He plays in it. And again, it's a way for him to network and connect with other people, not church people. does this intentionally. And I know some of you do this as well, in different ways, right? But it's important for us to be intentional in that way, isn't it? I had an opportunity just last week to interpret for somebody by the name of Roy Graham. Roy Graham is a grandson of Billy Graham. Some of you know Billy Graham. And Billy Graham's son is Franklin, who's coming to speak in Korea in June 3rd, up in Seoul. But Franklin he and his wife has 4 children, and Roy is one of them. And Roy's been to Korea before, and he's been to speak at our other church. So I've interpreted for him before. But this time, I went with him to Jeongsin High School, and then one church near Jamsil, up in Seoul. But anyway, some of you know Billy Graham and Ruth Graham. But one time, I guess, Ruth Graham was asked this question by a reporter. She was asked, I know your husband is great and famous and world evangelist and wrote many books and so famous. Everybody knows Billy Graham, in church circles and all that. But this reporter was kind of nasty, maybe. Anyway, the dude goes, have you ever thought about divorcing the man? Did you have any rough edges where you felt like, getting a divorce because, he was gone a lot, he traveled a lot, so busy, and, did you run into any trouble like that? And I guess Ruth Graham replied by saying, divorce? Not really. But murder? Several times, yes. Divorce? No, but murder? Yes. From a very casual way, right? This is the type of person Ruth Graham was, It's very humble, but very down to earth, very real, right? But today I want to show you a clip. Just a short video, it's maybe 2.5 minutes long, because I think this really shows what it means for us to lead by example. It's a story about Ruth Graham and about Billy Graham, I suppose, but there's a place called Louisiana State Penitentiary. And every prison, I think, in Korea as well, inmates are given different form of tasks, or it's work. They get paid, right? Depending on, what kind of area they're skilled in, and maybe they can even receive training while they're there, maybe for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. One guy in this video was there 30 plus years. So, in Louisiana State Penitentiary, they have a team of people, inmates, who make caskets. And these caskets are beautifully made. If you watch this video, you can tell they're very classic. Now, they're expensive, normally. They range like the Rolex watches that I explained. They literally range in the thousands. I didn't know that. I had no clue. But the ones that are made in Louisiana State Penitentiary, they're way, cheaper, right? A lot more affordable. Because they're I think you can get them for a few $100s. So once Mrs. Graham, Ruth Graham, received this information, she had a family meeting. When I die, my wish is that I get one of those caskets. Not the fancy ones, not the expensive ones, but I want a casket that was made in Louisiana State Penitentiary. That's the video we're going to watch.
It's been very touching. I originally came out here today thanking people for their love and support of my grandfather and my father's ministries. The casket was made down in a prison called Angola State Penitentiary down in Louisiana.
This is the Camp A carpenter shop. Our senior carpenter, Richard Liggett, among other things, builds coffins for the prisoners here at Angola, but this time he's building one special coffin.
we were down there for a prison rodeo, and my father had seen these caskets being made. He came back and told my grandmother, he said he bought her a gift. He bought her a casket made by prisoners, and my grandmother thought it was outstanding.
I've been in Angola 35 years. I build every casket just like I would have mine built.
Reverend Graham has always preached on the humility of man, and in order to grow in Christ likeness, we must humble ourselves. And I think that this is kind of his final statement to that effect, where he'll be buried in a coffin that's made by the poor or the prisoner.
The prisoners are people that need forgiveness too. And that's what my grandmother loved about it, that we all need forgiveness.